Tonight we continue our Mountain State Science series with a visit to the campus of West Virginia State University near Charleston and its Agricultural and Environmental Research Station. Suzanne Higgins reports the program is growing crops and growing the economy.
Students are harvesting flowers today in West Virginia State University's on-site greenhouse. The pansies will be weighed and the yield recorded. It's part of a research project to determine the best biodegradable and renewable soilless culture for growing plants in these vertical hydroponic systems. Research scientist Dr. Barbara Liedl runs the program.
The only other place that you would have seen a system similar to this is if you've gone through the land at Epcot in Disney World. They have this kind of vertical hydroponics. So what we have in this that makes it hydroponics, we have our liquid, in this case water, that's carrying fertilizer that comes down through the irrigation tubes, comes into the top pot, and then it drains through every pot down through here. And so you have very little that comes out the bottom.
The mission here at the Agricultural and Environmental Research Station is to assist in expanding and diversifying the state's small farms and to help introduce farmers to new production systems like hydroponics and to crops that will thrive in West Virginia.
West Virginia's small farms are very diverse, but we don't have enough farms to take care of feeding our people in the state. So there's really a push with both land-grant universities in our state to really try and grow more farmers and get more people to produce food that's used locally. Keep our dollars here in the state and actually end up with something that's more nutritious for our local economy. Have something that our families and children eat that is better for them.
What's going on here is called alternative agriculture. Alternative approaches to growing traditional crops. Among the ornamental flowers and cayenne peppers, tomatoes take center stage. Commercial greenhouse tomato production represents almost 20% of the total tomato production in the country, and that's expected to rise dramatically. But U.S. greenhouse varieties weren't bred for greenhouse production, and they're prone to attracting insects and developing disease. It's an area of university research Liedl and her team have all to their own.
I'm still the only person at a university that's breeding greenhouse tomatoes, though. There's nobody else in the U.S. that's breeding greenhouse tomatoes.
So the Agricultural and Environmental Research Station is focusing on developing a disease-resistant, insect-resistant, delicious greenhouse tomato. Research technician Jeremy Sisson takes us through some of the genetic work.
You notice that these, in comparison with the other leaves that you touch on a cultivated tomato, are real sticky. They have a substance that's called acyl sugars on them. So the wild species, these were originally found in South America. And these species they're under a lot of disease pressure. They have a lot of insects coming after them, so they had to develop this naturally. So through natural selection, the ones that survived had these traits that we're looking for. Now, when we went to domesticate the tomato, we lost a lot of that natural disease resistance because we were selecting for size and taste and other qualities that we want, and we inadvertently bred out the disease resistance in the form of the sugars and things like that. So what we're trying to do is take lines that have been crossed to these disease resistant lines and through conventional breeding practices move that resistance in. And what we do with the molecular markers is expedite that process because we can actually check the seedlings when they're small at the molecular level if they have the genes that we want, if we actually are moving them in.
Liedl believes the greenhouse will have a tomato breed to release for license within just a few years. But before a variety is released, there's a process called trialing, where small farmers like Terry Hudson of Big Chimney in Kanawha County are given seeds or small plants to test grow.
But you see this little guy here, he's having some insect problems.
Hudson will keep records of what does well and what doesn't. As part of a research trial with West Virginia State University and West Virginia University, he's testing various breeds of tomatoes, lettuce, chard, carrots, garlic, and dozens of varieties of flowers.
So we keep very good data on, germination, yield, all that type of thing, pressure from insects. So basically, some of the things that we have here are companion planted that will pull one insect to devour another insect. So a lot of the reason that we grow a lot of flowers is, they bring in a lot of good insects that kill the bad insects. Because we're 100% organic here.
Hudson is one of the state's thousands of small farmers. He has less than an acre, but grows for his family and sells to local markets, restaurants, and florists. His biggest endeavor right now is another research and training project with Dr. Liedl, the construction of 10 low-cost high tunnels on small farms around the state. High tunnels are plastic-covered structures with vented sides used for the production of crops. They resemble greenhouses but cost less to erect and operate. Hudson built this high tunnel, which became the prototype for the university's project, and is leading the installation workshops for farmers.
In here, the wood is all repurposed, gravel repurposed. The original plastic was repurposed from a construction site. Signposts repurposed, scaffold boards for the raised beds repurposed. So pretty much all this is a repurposed. So this particular tunnel, which is again 20 by 48, I built for under $500. The ones that we're putting up with the program are under $1,000 because it's all new material.
High tunnels allow an expanded growing season and continued work in inclement weather. Hudson says with his high tunnel, he's harvesting crops year-round, and that's the goal for the 10 pilot high tunnels now in Kanawha, Putnam, Logan, Greenbrier, Ohio, and Roane counties. The High Tunnel project is funded by the West Virginia Department of Agriculture through the USDA.
The little breeze that you feel blowing through here now, that's your passive ventilation. And of course, we got nice sunlight today. Now, in the middle of winter, if it's 22, 23 degrees outside, with a teeny bit of sun, it'll be 60 in here. So it's hard to believe that just this poly covering will do that, but it does.
Liedl says she'll track the efforts of the farmers with high tunnels, ultimately writing a how-to manual to share with other growers.
We're finding out what works and what doesn't work, and we're finding out where you can put a high tunnel up that they haven't necessarily said that it could go. We just put one up that was finished last week in Roane County, and it's kind of on the side of a mountain. So other people would look at that and say, you can't put one there. Well, we have.
With summer here, Liedl and her team at West Virginia State University split their time between the lab, the greenhouse, and farms throughout the state. Liedl's message to small farmers: think bigger.
I'm hoping that maybe we can convince more of them to expand out their garden, find ways to sell their excess produce in there, or if not, also use the produce to create other value-added products. I think we're known quite widely when people travel through the state to stop and buy our salsas and our jams and jellies, and I'd love to see more of those jams and jellies and salsas have West Virginia grown products as well as being West Virginia made. So that's something I'm hoping to see more of.
For West Virginia Public Broadcasting, I'm Suzanne Higgins in Institute.
Support for the Mountain State Science Series comes from the National Science Foundation's experimental program to stimulate competitive research, investing in West Virginia's future by building infrastructure for scientific research. On the web at wvresearch.org.